The little purple dragon, Thimble, had made the Grand Opera House his home for as long as he could remember. Tucked high above the stage in the shimmering chandelier, he perched on crystal arms, his violet scales catching and scattering the golden light. The opera house was his kingdom, and the opera hall, with its velvet curtains and gilded balconies, was his realm of wonder. On weekdays, the hall buzzed with excitement, musicians tuning their instruments, singers rehearsing their arias, and stage hands bustling about. Thimble watched it all, his golden eyes wide with delight. But what truly enchanted him were the performances, those magical moments when the world faded, and music and stories came to life. Thimble didn't just watch, he participated. Though the performers didn't know it at first, his antics became part of the opera house's charm. Tonight's performance, The Ballad of the Moonlit Forest, was no exception. The story was a fantastical tale of a wandering prince, a cursed forest, and a starry maiden trapped in an ancient oak. As the orchestra struck the overture's first haunting notes, Thimble's heart raced. He loved the drama, the suspense, and the soaring melodies. His wings twitched with anticipation. From his chandelier perch, Thimble surveyed the stage. The set was enchanting, towering trees painted with silver moonlight and a misty glade that seemed alive with mystery. The prince, clad in flowing garments of deep green and gold, stepped into the glade, singing of his quest to free the maiden. "And what if the stars guide me wrong?" he sang, his tenor voice ringing clear and true. Thimble leaned forward, his claws gripping the chandelier's edge. The drama needed just a touch of magic, he thought. With a swift leap, he unfurled his wings and dove through the air, his movements silent as a shadow. Gasps erupted from the audience as Thimble swooped low over the stage. He circled the prince once, his iridescent wings catching the stage lights, before landing gently on the oak tree centerpiece. The actor playing the prince froze mid-note, his expression caught between awe and terror. The audience erupted into applause, mistaking Thimble for a planned effect. The soprano playing the starry maiden peeked out from her wooden prison, her eyes wide. Thimble tilted his head at her, then opened his mouth. A small puff of harmless purple smoke billowed out, shimmering in the stage lights. The maiden giggled, breaking character, but quickly recovered as the prince stepped forward. "Behold," the prince ad-libbed, pointing to Thimble. "A guardian of the forest, here to guide me." Thimble bobbed his head, pleased with the improvisation. With a flick of his tail, he launched into the air again, flying in loops around the stage. The orchestra, quick to adapt, picked up a whimsical tune that matched his playful flight. The audience was enthralled. As the prince sang a stirring aria about courage and destiny, Thimble landed beside him and playfully nudged his shoulder. The prince laughed, his voice ringing out in harmony with the dragon's antics. When the maiden was finally freed from the oak, Thimble perched on her shoulder, wrapping his tail around her arm. She sang her gratitude to the stars, her voice soaring to the rafters, while Thimble added a stream of sparkling smoke for effect. When the curtain fell, the applause was thunderous. The performers took their bows, with Thimble nestled in the maiden's arms. The audience cheered louder when the dragon gave a theatrical bow of his own, spreading his wings wide. That night, as the hall emptied and the lights dimmed, Thimble returned to his chandelier, his heart full of joy. Another magical night in the opera house, another performance brought to life. He curled up on his perch, letting the faint echoes of applause lull him to sleep, dreaming of the next show where he could add his own spark of wonder. Thimble was no stranger to spectacle. The Grand Opera House, with its gilded balconies and velvet drapes, was a realm of endless enchantment, and every performance was a portal into a new world. After his impromptu debut in the Ballad of the Moonlit Forest, the little purple dragon had become something of a legend. Patrons whispered about him over glasses of champagne, wondering if the dragon would grace the stage again. Thimble, of course, was delighted by the attention, though he was careful never to reveal himself outside the safety of his chandelier. Mystery, he thought, was half the charm. Tonight's performance was something entirely different, the Celestial Masquerade. It was a tale of gods and mortals, love and betrayal, set in a cosmic ballroom that spanned the heavens. The story centered on Astrea, the goddess of the night sky, who descended to earth in disguise to attend a grand masquerade. There, she fell in love with a mortal artist, but their union was threatened by the jealous Sun King, Chandelier, who sought to keep Astrea in the heavens. The stage was resplendent with shimmering constellations and swirling nebulae. The set designers had truly outdone themselves, and Thimble's heart raced as he admired the cosmic splendor from his perch. He decided, quite resolutely, that this performance deserved his most spectacular contribution yet. The orchestra struck up the opening waltz, a sweeping, celestial melody that transported the audience to the stars. Astrea, clad in a gown of midnight blue studded with glittering crystals, descended from a hidden platform high above the stage. Her voice, a rich soprano, filled the hall as she sang of her longing for freedom and love. Thimble watched her descent with fascination, his golden eyes reflecting the stage lights. She was breathtaking, but something was missing, a true sense of magic. The little dragon flexed his wings and leaped from his chandelier, diving through the air like a comet. The audience gasped as he appeared, spiraling down in a trail of glittering purple smoke. He landed delicately on the edge of Astrea's platform, his tail curling around a crystal spire. The goddess faltered in her song for only a moment, her eyes widening at the unexpected guest. Then, like a true professional, she smiled and extended a hand. "And who might you be, little star?" she ad-libbed, her voice ringing clear. Thimble tilted his head, puffing out a small cloud of sparkling smoke that seemed to form the outline of a constellation. The audience erupted into delighted applause. The orchestra, clearly prepared for anything by now, added a playful trill to accompany his antics. As the performance continued, Thimble wove himself seamlessly into the story. He flitted around the ballroom, his presence adding an extra layer of wonder to the cosmic waltz. When Astrea and the mortal artist danced, their duet soaring in perfect harmony, Thimble spiraled above them, his wings casting shimmering reflections across the stage. But it was in the climactic confrontation between Astrea and Chandelier that Thimble truly shone. The Sun King, dressed in resplendent gold with a crown of fiery rays, stormed onto the stage, his booming baritone filling the hall. He accused Astrea of betrayal, his voice a thunderclap of rage. "Return to the heavens where you belong, Astrea," he bellowed, pointing an accusing finger. "The stars are no place for mortals." Thimble, perched on a celestial orb suspended above the stage, narrowed his eyes. He could sense the tension rising, the story begging for an extra spark. With a sudden leap, he launched himself into the fray, his wings catching the golden light like a cascade of jewels. The audience held their breath as Thimble circled the Sun King, his movements precise and deliberate. The dragon inhaled deeply and released a stream of purple smoke that enveloped Chandelier, obscuring him in a glittering haze. When the smoke cleared, the Sun King's crown was gone, replaced by a simple golden circlet that seemed far less menacing. The audience erupted into applause, cheering for the little dragon's clever intervention. Chandelier, clearly a skilled actor, played along, his rage melting into reluctant admiration. "Very well, little star," he said, addressing Thimble with a grudging bow. "Perhaps the heavens can make room for love after all." The final scene was a triumph. Astrea and the artist ascended together into the night sky, their duet blending with the orchestra in a breathtaking crescendo. Thimble soared alongside them, trailing ribbons of purple smoke that formed a glittering heart in the air. When the curtain fell, the ovation was deafening. The performers bowed deeply, with Astrea cradling Thimble in her arms like a cherished jewel. The little dragon, ever the showman, gave a theatrical wave of his tail, earning another round of cheers. Back in the dim silence of the empty opera house, Thimble returned to his chandelier, his heart soaring with joy. He curled up on his favorite crystal arm, letting the memory of the audience's cheers lull him to sleep. Tomorrow, he thought, there would be another performance, another story, another chance to bring his unique magic to the stage. And he couldn't wait. The buzz around Thimble, the little purple dragon of the Grand Opera House, had grown to mythical proportions. Patrons now attended performances not just for the stellar productions but for the hope of catching a glimpse of the enigmatic dragon. He had become an unofficial mascot of the Opera House, his antics adding an unpredictable brilliance to each show. Thimble, from his lofty chandelier perch, reveled in the attention but remained blissfully aloof. He wasn't there for fame, he was there for the magic, the music, and the stories. And tonight's performance promised to be the most enchanting yet, The Pirate Queen's Veil, a swashbuckling tale of romance, rebellion, and high seas adventure. The opera began with a bang, literally. A thunderous cannon shot rang out, and the stage was transformed into the deck of the Stormbringer, a pirate ship helmed by the fiery Captain Esmeralda, the titular Pirate Queen. The set was a marvel of engineering, with masts that reached the rafters and ropes that swung dramatically over the audience's heads. Thimble, watching from above, was captivated. The stage teemed with energy as sailors sang a raucous chanty, their voices blending into a thrilling harmony. Esmeralda herself appeared in a blaze of scarlet and gold, her mezzo-soprano voice cutting through the chaos like a blade. But as much as Thimble adored the spectacle, he couldn't help but notice something missing. The scene was grand, yes, but it lacked a certain unpredictability, the kind of spark he knew he could provide. With a flick of his tail and a gleam in his golden eyes, he decided to make his entrance. As Esmeralda belted out her defiant aria, proclaiming her freedom from kings and tyrants, Thimble dove from the chandelier. He descended like a streak of violet lightning, his wings catching the light of the stage's lanterns. The audience gasped, and the sailors on stage stumbled back, their shock written in wide-eyed wonder. Esmeralda, however, did not falter. With the instinct of a seasoned performer, she turned her gaze upward and improvised. "What creature dares challenge the Pirate Queen?" she declared, pointing her cutlass toward Thimble. The orchestra, quick to adapt, added a playful trill as Thimble landed gracefully on the ship's mast. He tilted his head, surveying Esmeralda with curiosity, then released a small puff of purple smoke. The smoke coiled around her cutlass, transforming its dull edge into a shimmering blade of light. The audience erupted into cheers, and Esmeralda raised the blade high, her laughter ringing out like bells. "It seems even the heavens favor me," she declared, continuing her aria with renewed fervor. Thimble, pleased with his contribution, took to the rigging. He darted between ropes and sails, adding bursts of glittering smoke and flicks of his tail to the unfolding drama. At one point, he perched on a swinging rope, mimicking the sailors' movements and earning delighted laughter from the crowd. The second act brought darker tones. The Pirate Queen's nemesis, Admiral Blackthorn, appeared on stage, his booming baritone filling the hall. Dressed in a stark navy uniform, he represented the iron fist of the Empire, determined to capture Esmeralda and crush her rebellion. Their confrontation was electric. The stage transformed into a moonlit sea, with rolling waves projected onto the backdrop. As Blackthorn and Esmeralda duelled, their voices clashing in a powerful duet, Thimble hovered above, his smoke creating the illusion of storm clouds. But the duel was interrupted by an ambush. Enemy ships surrounded the Stormbringer. Cannon fire erupted, and the stage became a chaotic whirl of sound and light. Thimble seized his moment. He swooped low over the deck, his wings stirring the smoke into a swirling vortex that seemed to repel the attackers. The orchestra swelled, and Esmeralda, inspired by the dragon's intervention, leaped onto the ship's wheel. To victory, she sang, her voice a rallying cry that brought the sailors back to their feet. The final act was a masterpiece of drama. Esmeralda faced a heartbreaking choice: surrender to Blackthorn to save her crew or fight to the bitter end. As she sang her aria of despair, Thimble perched on her shoulder, his presence a silent but powerful symbol of hope. When the climactic battle erupted, Thimble was everywhere at once, darting between sails, spiraling through cannon smoke, and even perching briefly on Blackthorn's hat to the audience's delight. In the end, Esmeralda's courage and cleverness triumphed. With a daring maneuver, she outwitted the admiral and escaped, her ship sailing triumphantly into the horizon. As the final note rang out, Thimble soared into the air, trailing a stream of purple smoke that formed the shape of a pirate's skull and crossbones. The audience leapt to their feet, their applause shaking the very rafters of the opera house. When the curtain fell, the performers gathered for their bows, and Esmeralda beckoned Thimble forward. The little dragon hesitated for a moment, then flew down to perch on her arm. She held him high, her smile radiant, and the applause reached a deafening crescendo. That night, as Thimble returned to his chandelier, the echoes of the cheers still ringing in his ears, he felt a deep sense of satisfaction. He wasn't just a spectator, he was part of the magic, a thread woven into the fabric of every story. And he knew, as he curled up to sleep, that the next performance would be even grander. After all, the opera house was his stage, and the possibilities were endless.